Good day, everyone. So today's story is The Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe. It's the second Poe I've done on this channel, the first one being The Oval Portrait. And this is a birthday present for my friend Antonio in the USA. He requested that I do this story because it's one of his favorites, and I could not help but oblige him. Antonio is a close friend of mine, and one day hopefully I'll meet him and shake his hand. I respect him a lot. So, the Cask of Amontillado is narrated from the first person perspective, and the narrator has a friend called Fortunato. Except, Fortunato has wronged the narrator, or so the narrator believes. He has gone on to insult him one too many times, and at first he was ignorant of these insults, but now he has had enough, and therefore he must avenge himself on Fortunato. But the narrator is crafty. He says his revenge will be a dish that is best served cold. He believes that Fortunato will be fooled into thinking that the narrator is still his friend. But while he is thinking thus, the narrator is plotting the revenge that he will have. And so it happens that a carnival is held, and Fortunato has attended the carnival and on the way back bumps into our narrator. And our narrator is like, very good. This is the opportunity. And the one thing about Fortunato is that Fortunato considers himself to be a connoisseur of wines. And so, the narrator, exploiting this weakness, tells Fortunato that he has got a cask of Amontillado recently, out of season. And that is enough for a gleam to appear in Fortunato's eyes. And he says, how is this possible? How have you got Amontillado at this time? It cannot be Amontillado. You have been tricked. And the narrator says, yes, that is quite possible, but I I don't really know, and I was afraid of missing out on a bargain. So I bought it at the full price of Amontillado, and now I am having second doubts. And so Fortunato says, let us go then to your vaults. And the narrator, not expecting it to be so easy perhaps, tries to dissuade him and says, no, you have an engagement. I'll ask Lucchesi. And Fortunato is like, "Poof, Lucchesi. Lucchesi would not know Amontillado from the cheapest sherry. And so he says, I have no engagement, let us make to your vaults. And so they start off. And as they are walking, the narrator perceives that Fortunato is slightly drunk and coughing a lot. So he says again, it will be damp in my walls. We should turn back. We should turn back. But Fortunato says, no, no, this cough has been there for some time. It's not going to deter me at all. It's not a problem. Let's keep on going. Let's keep on going. And so they reach the Montessor vaults. And Fortunato enters. And at once they see the nitre on the walls. And again, the narrator tries to dissuade them and says it is going to be damp and even damper further in. We should turn back now. But Fortunato says, no, I want to see the cask of Amontillado. How can you have Amontillado out of season? And so he forges on. And a third time, our narrator tries to dissuade him when they reach the family crypt of the Montessors. And here the nitre is quite prominent because the crypt is under a river. And once again, our narrator impeaches Fortunato and says, let us not go further, your cough is getting worse. And Fortunato says, that's okay, we took this bottle of wine from your cellars. And if you could just find another bottle of wine, I will just warm myself up. And the narrator supplies him with another bottle of wine. And Fortunato drinks it at one go. And his drunkenness increases. The spark in his eyes begins to be brighter. And so they go forth into the crypt. And all around them there are sarcophagi in which the dead lie and the remains of the dead. And as they go deeper and deeper, the light becomes a little faded. So Fortunato grabs a torch and he keeps going in and in until he reaches a point where a wall has collapsed and there is a small recess. And the narrator urges Fortunato to enter this recess. But the thing is, this recess was built to house two beams which support the roof of the crypt, and there is nothing but solid granite at the end of the recess. And the recess is about 6 feet wide and 4 feet deep. So, when Fortunato stumbles in delight, hoping to find Amontillado at the end of this recess, and he sees that there is no Amontillado, there is only a wall, he is somewhat confused. And it is at this point that the narrator jumps on him, jumps into the crypt, and quickly, with a padlock and chain, chains him to the granite wall. And Fortunato does not understand what is going on. And the narrator steps out, and he goes to a corner of the room where some human bones are there. And among those bones, he finds a small set of stones, and he brings those stones, and he finds a trowel, and he starts to seal up the recess. Now he has put one layer and 2 layers and 3 layers, and there is no sound from Fortunato. But by the time he has reached the 5th layer, Fortunato's drunkenness has worn off, and Fortunato starts to scream and struggle against the chain. He tries to break the chain, but the chain is thick, it will not break. And these cries continue. And then the narrator joins in, and the narrator matches the cries with his own voice and ultimately subdues the panic stricken individual inside by screaming. And he continues to build the wall, and the 7th layer is in, the 8th layer is in, the wall is almost up to his chest. And Fortunato suddenly starts to scream again. But this scream, it is not like the other screams. In fact, the narrator could scarcely recognize it as Fortunato's voice. And so the narrator panics. And he takes a rapier from his belt and unsheathes it and pokes it into the recess. And he takes a torch and he shines it into the recess. And the individual he sees inside scares him so much that he jumps back. But then he realizes that he must continue to build the wall to seal his former friend inside that recess. And so he lays the final brick. And as he is laying it, Fortunato says, "Will not the Lady Fortunato miss us at the palazzo? By the grace of God, let us be away from here." And the narrator says, "Yes, by the grace of God, let us be away from here." And then the narrator says that, "I'm sorry there is no Amontillado, but I must leave you here now." And he turns around and walks away. And the last line of the story is, for 50 years, nobody has gone to that corner of the crypt. Requiesca de pace, which is Italian for rest in peace. That was The Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe. And this atmosphere you see with a dark room is a little bit of an addition to the atmosphere in general. I hope you enjoyed the story. I enjoyed telling it. I love Poe. And I hope Antonio enjoys his birthday present. Happy birthday once again from all the way around the world. And someday I will go and meet you. That is all that I have got for you. I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're staying vigilant. Until we meet again next week, this is the Bilge Master signing off.